you're looking for ways to improve the photos that you're taking with your iPhone, then you've come to the right place. We've already created videos for you that show how to crop and straighten your photos, and also how to use the auto adjustment tool on your iPhone to make quick and easy adjustments. Today, we're going to take a deeper look at how changing the settings for exposure and brilliance will improve your photos. So what the heck is exposure anyway? If you've ever used software like Photoshop or Lightroom for editing photos, then you probably have a pretty good idea of what the exposure settings mean. Exposure is controlled by the amount of light that reaches your camera's sensor. Using the editor to adjust exposure can help with problems such as overexposure, where the photo's washed out from too much light, or it can help if the photo had too little light and was underexposed. Overall, though, our phone's cameras are nearly experts when it comes to judging how much light to let in. Any adjustments that you'll be making will be small, but that's not to say that you can't have some fun with creating your own unique photos by adjusting the exposure. One more thing to keep in mind is that many photographers believe that you want to always adjust your exposure to bring the best focus to the subject of the photo. It's been said that the eye will forgive under or overexposure in the background or some other non-essential part of the photo. For the main subject, though, the exposure needs to be just right. Let's look at a couple of examples of how changes in the exposure settings can tweak a photo to make it more interesting. In this first photo that I took last fall, I've always wanted that Japanese maple, the red plant there in the front, to just pop a little bit more. There's so much going on. So I'm going to pull up the exposure, kind of experiment back and forth, and you can see how it's brightening up just a bit. I really do think this improves that photo. The next photo is one that I took in the Smoky Mountains last fall. It was a cloudy day, and I wanted to highlight those trees and the river, so I'm going to pull up the exposure quite a bit actually. And it kind of tones down that gray sky and brings up the vibrancy of the rest of the photo, and I really like those changes. Now let's look at changes using the Brilliance setting. The Brilliance tool in the editor is kind of a combo tool. It applies changes to brighten dark areas, pull in highlights, and add contrast to reveal hidden details. Overall, it can make your photo look richer and more vibrant. Brilliance is a color neutral adjustment, which means that no saturation is applied. I've noticed that when you ask your iPhone to make auto adjustments, there are almost always pretty big changes made using the Brilliance setting. So that tells me that it is a powerful tool. Let's look at how making changes to the Brilliance settings can improve a photo that I took where there was a lot of texture. In this first photo that I've taken, I want the focus to be on those blue berries that drop from the eastern red cedar trees in my yard. But there's so much else going on here, so I'm going to take the Brilliance setting and bring it up and really add all of that extra texture and clarity to the different elements, and I really do think it's a great improvement. In this photo that I took in that same general area, this stump, it can be a little bit plain. Again, I want to bring up the vibrance of the different elements. So I'm going to bring up that Brilliance setting and highlight those green leaves, the lighter parts of the stump. As I experiment back and forth, I really do like how using Brilliance enhances this photo. Before we wrap up, I want to show you how you can set the exposure on your phone's camera before taking the photo. Your phone is going to make its own judgment about how much light to let into the sensor based on what it believes the subject of your photo will be. And let's not forget how smart your camera is when it comes to exposure. Let me show you how presetting the exposure works. I took this photo as a sample, knowing that the lamp was right there next to it and would be kind of controlling what the camera thought the lighting should be. So I started over, and this time I tapped in the darker part of the screen. Now you see the little sun, and you can slide that up and it gets a lot brighter, and back down and make your adjustment so you get the exposure right where you want it to be. Take the photo again, and let me show you the before and after. This is the one we just took, that's the after. Slide on over to the before, and you can see we come back. I like the changes there. Okay, now it's your turn. It's time to take some of your photos, either new ones that you've just taken or some that have been in your photo library for a while, and experiment. Adjust the exposure and see how it improves your photo, and also adjust the brilliance and see what improvements it can make there. And you'll be on your way to learning more about creating better photos with your iPhone.